And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is Tina Baxter, and I'm here with nursing news you can use at 5, nursing, business, and news. I want to thank everyone for being here and showing up here. Hello to those that are on our Nurse Shark Academy page, those that are on our Baxter Professional Services business page, and those of you that are YouTube, hello, hello, hello. Today is August the 2nd, 2023. And I have to say, last week we didn't have a broadcast. I was vacationing and enjoying my time. And so I wanted to hop in here beginning of August and come right in with our affirmations and inspirational sayings for today. So today is August the 3rd and the 2nd, excuse me, and our affirmation number 1 is attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, mirror what you admire. I'm going to say that again. Attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, and mirror what you admire. Second affirmation, we can't direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. We can't direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. And lastly, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a life you are excited about. Don't let others make you forget that. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a life you are excited about. Don't let others make you forget that. So those are our inspirational quotes and affirmations for today. I'm just going to check our feed real quick. I got a new headphones here, and I want to make sure that they're actually working. So somebody let me know if I'm not coming through here. So I wanted to make sure I'm actually working and you can see me. So, oh, yep, it's working. All right, perfect. All right. So I wanted to get into some of the things that we're going to talk about this week. And then we'll get into announcements at the end. But I wanted to, and I want to say, stay tuned for the big announcements now. We've got big announcements coming up. I'm very excited. All right, so let's get into the news for today because there's some stuff that has been happening that I thought was quite interesting. And so this first article is coming up. It says, for-profit Virginia nursing school shuts down doors abruptly. And this is coming from MedPage Today. And it says, this is their second article about for-profit nursing schools who often market their programs to people working in low-level jobs, people looking to improve their life circumstances, etc. So this article, oh, what happened here? Okay, sorry about that. For some reason, my feed just dropped down on my Adobe. So here we go, back into the story. All right, so let's get on with it. It says this is they are interviewed a student called Lisette Scopel. She's a single mother working in retail. Chose to go to Stratford University in Woodbridge, Virginia, because it offered an accelerated Bachelor's of Science in Nursing program that she could complete in 18 months without quitting her job. So there is the promise. All right. So it says tuition was around $6,300 per term over an 18-month period, or roughly about $48,000, not including lab fees and clinical courses fees. So students, typical get in with your GED, high school transcript, pass an admissions test, write an essay, etc. So she said she was admitted into the program and was 2 weeks in the core nursing program in 2021 when she joined a Zoom call with the Virginia Board of Nursing, organized in response to student complaints. It was then that she began to notice warning signs. So I wanted to share this because if you're a nursing student, this is why I'm sharing this with you. If you're a nursing student and you're going to a school, these are some of the warning signs that you're going to want to look for. Okay. First of all, students were complaining that it was hard to find clinical placements. Now, I understand it's very hard to get clinical placements right now, but when you particularly have to find your own placements, this becomes a big problem. It says a girl literally said to find a clinical spot is, quote, like the Hunger Games, according to this student. She says when students couldn't secure a clinical spot, They typically had to also drop the lecture class paired with that rotation until the next term, which could delay their timeline to complete the program. So you have that going on. So that's warning sign number one. The school didn't have a bad reputation, but she said she wished she had paid attention to red flag number two, the program's pass rates for the NCLEX exam. So potential students and regulators look at how they pass the exam, right? How many students pass first time. So in 2020, their Woodbridge campus, Stratford's Woodbridge campus, had an average pass rate of 69.7%. The school's Falls campus had a 51.9%, which is a 30 percentage points lower than the campus's 80% pass rate in 2019. So obviously during COVID, things went bad for a lot of places, but they couldn't just tie this to COVID. So it says for-profit schools tend to have lower pass rates than their public and private nonprofit counterparts, and Stratford was no exception. So that's what they know across the board nationwide. So these are some things as a nursing student you might want to look at. One, complaints about clinical placement. Two, NCLEX pass rates. Okay. So she says that their admission packet says they have clinical experiences at a wide variety of Northern Virginia, Central Virginia, Southern Virginia, Washington, D.C. hospitals and community agencies. But Scupple said that 3 of her 4 rotations were in nursing homes. So they didn't have clinical placements in hospitals, just nursing homes. So the third thing, red flag, where are you getting placed? Now, obviously you want to have some time in the nursing home. I'm a geriatric person. Nursing students need to spend some time in the nursing home, but the bulk of your training can't be in the nursing home. It has to be somewhere else. Another student had said that when she arrived at the nursing home, no one seemed to be expecting the students. They didn't know that they were coming. The instructor was 1.5 hours late and complained that she hadn't been paid yet. So, fourth red flag, right? Faculty complaining about working conditions and non-payment. So listen to who your faculty members are, right? And what they are doing. So that's another red flag. Red flag number 5. Yes, there's more. There's more. So then in this story, she also says that equipment was broken. Only one of the mannequins in which they were supposed to practice was broken, so they couldn't listen to heart sounds and didn't listen to the bowel sounds and things like that because the mannequins were not working, and they were allegedly told to just pretend. Broken equipment. All right, so we have this other red flag, number 6. There's many in this story. 6. Grade inflation, which is common. It's if a large number of students failed a test, teachers would then curve the scores to make it look like everyone passed. So according to Scupple, she said for one pharmacology exam, not more than 3 students in the class of about 30 passed. The class retook the exam at home, open book. The professor averaged the grades of the initial exam and retake according to the email. So then you kind of change the grades so that they will seem that they are passing. So that's another red flag. Okay. Here is red flag number 7. Students were on campus and noticed that, hey, the Wi-Fi was disabled, not for a day, that can happen, but for a few weeks at one campus, forcing the students to go back to school on Zoom. Red flag number 8. Janitors were fired or quit abruptly, and students were told to clean up after themselves. And number 9, financial aid service staff weren't available. Library got closed, and software license for the students' exams was allowed to lapse. So you're seeing infrastructure crumble. All right. And then red flag number 10. Teachers. Staff are leaving back to back, according to some of the reports. So these were the warning signs that they were having. And then they put out an information from the school, and the school says it would require that students would begin to take an in-person NCLEX prep course. Okay, that's great. So the next quarter, 2022, pass rates improved to 84.6. That's wonderful. However, warning sign number 11. They weren't told that the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools, the ACICS, their accreditor, had been stripped of his recognition a few days earlier. So now they were no longer accredited. So under Board of Nursing rules, a nursing program must have accreditation at the level of its parent institution, in this case, Stratford University, or an accreditation at the program level, so-called specialized accreditation. Stratford had both, but without a federally recognized accreditor, the university stood to lose access to an important funding source, which is federal financial aid. So this is, again, all those things that happen. So when you're a nursing student and you're seeing these red flags, it's time for you to take a step back and maybe see if you can get into somewhere else. So unfortunately, one of the former staff members said that they were told on a Zoom call last Friday that they were terminated effective immediately. She says that she had an inkling because the program was in trouble. Payroll had been late 6 months earlier, and the weeks before she was terminated, the cleaning staff was let go, leaving one of the directors to take up the task of replacing the bathroom toilet paper. So this is even after the school student council president got on there and said, hey, I talked to them. They said school's not closing. But on the 23rd of September, the students received a different message from their president and CEO. So they were given 18 months to find a new accreditor. However, the Department of Education threw it a curveball, said by prohibiting it from enrolling any new students. So without new students, they couldn't afford to continue operating. So the school was closed down. So I'd say this to you: if you're a nursing student and you're in a training program and you start seeing these red flags, you might want to take another look. Okay. And this is how this happened. So I kind of wanted to just flesh this out so you can understand what happened. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story, because this is a heavy news day as we're making up for lost time, and there's a lot going on in the world. All right. So this is the great state of Florida. It says judge orders Florida to stop putting children in nursing homes. This is coming from The Guardian. It says a pediatric doctor who saw firsthand the misery caused by Florida's, quote, antiquated practice of locking medically fragile children in nursing facilities and preventing parents and caregivers from looking after them at home has welcomed a court order ending the policy. District Court Judge Donald Middlebrooks rebuked the state in a scathing 79-page ruling for its, quote, systemic institutionalization of the children and flagrant breaches of the Americans with Disability Act, which compels care to take place in the least restrictive environment available. So this has been going on, I guess, a big battle in Florida. One of the health officials that were tasked to looking at this said, quote, the site visits were emotionally taxing, particularly in light of the fact that I care for children with similar conditions and statuses who live with their families and are integrated into the community, said Ellen Bach, medical director of the Pediatric Complex Program at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Medicine and Public Health. Quote, to envision some of my own patients being forced to live in an institution that really hit home for me. It was challenging. So she also says that she witnessed one child was sitting alone in a stroller at the edge of an open common area. When I interacted with her, she tracked me with her eyes and smiled at me, clearly engaged with the interaction. At another facility, she said she saw a boy make a bolt for freedom as soon as a railing on his bed was lowered. It was, she said, another example of a child with minimal medical needs unnecessarily residing in a skilled nursing facility. She also, according to the state's own inspection records, that other children were left for hours in urine soaked diapers because staff were, quote, busy elsewhere. So, this is going to be a story that we're going to follow. Um, the ruling states that changes in procedures in order to keep the children out of nursing homes, but it's not clear yet what it means for the 140 who are already there. He said unjustified institutionalization of individuals with disabilities is unacceptable, especially given the advances in technology and the provision of home based care. Any family who wants to care for the child at home should be able to do so. So we'll see what happens, but I just thought I'd share this article with you because these things do happen. Now, there are some instances where children with severe developmental problems may require be in an institution. However, you want to go to the least restrictive care environment as possible. And if the parents are willing, why not support the parents in keeping the child at home, which ultimately probably would be cheaper. All right, so let's go ahead and move on because let's get to this story because this came out on LinkedIn. Someone posted this on LinkedIn and I happened to catch it, so I wanted to bring it here to you. This is from Healthcare Finance News. And it says that school nurses top the list of the unhappiest nursing jobs in the United States. So this is a ranking by nursing process, and you can certainly look this up if you want to get more information. So school nurses at the top, followed by hospital staff nurses, emergency room nurses, and substance abuse nurses. The rankings look at the number of different factors, including salary, potential for upward mobility, stress level, work life balance, and feelings of appreciation. School nurses had been among the happiest strains of the profession in previous rankings, but this year the category takes the unhappy throne due to principally the COVID-19 pandemic, which nursing process estimates has increased school nurse workload as much as threefold. So the number 2 job on the unhappy list, hospital staff nurse, consistently one of the unhappiest jobs in the field. In addition to working long hours on their feet with required rotating shifts and weekends, staff nurses have often been overworked and understaffed, a problem that has only been made worse by the Great Resignation and, of course, the pandemic. Emergency nursing as well. Fifth on the list was correctional nurses, whose patients are typically not a happy bunch, contributing to the stress level of the position. Day-to-day work includes treating injuries, helping addicted people detox, and care for people, in some cases, who haven't tended to their physical well-being in years. Rounding out the top 10 are nurse educators, nurse managers, home health nurses, insurance physical nurses, and nursing home RNs. Okay. Overall, largely, it says nurses nationwide are feeling slightly better about their jobs these days in a May survey, but 62% are still concerned about the future of nursing. So we're seeing a little bit of improvement in that. That's great. Some of the jobs that, one of the big jobs that nurses seem to enjoy, legal nurse consulting was one of them. Nurse case management was another. So when you look at the things that the nurses enjoyed, these were some of the things that were in the most happiest nurses. So just thought I'd share that with you. All right, let's move on to this next story. We're going to go, this is from Skilled Nursing News. Back down to Florida. It says a law enabling nursing home CNAs to pass meds were signed by DeSantis. So there's a new law that will allow CNAs to become QMAs or qualified medication aides, with the idea that that's going to free up more time for the nurses. As a person who trains QMAs, I think they would be very helpful in long-term care. However, you need to make sure that they're adequately trained. The measure states that aides will be permitted to administer oral, transdermal, ophthalmic, otic, inhaled, or topical prescription medication under nurse supervision. The bill's passed could also help skilled nursing operators develop career paths for CNAs, since CNAs with at least 1 year of experience would be eligible for additional training to become a qualified medication aid. So I think that may be a helpful thing, particularly in long-term care. We'll see what happens with that. But that also brings up Florida nurses. If you're looking for a new career path, you might want to consider being a CNA QMA instructor and owning your own business. Just saying, we just had a challenge about doing that very thing. But just saying. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Alabama. This is quite an interesting story. All right, so this is reported by Capital B, which is an independent news organization, and it's been picked up other places too. I would have to say, but I just want to let you hear about what's happening down in Alabama. It says, from racial slurs to lynching jokes, new lawsuit details alleged racism in nursing home. So it's Courtney Love was a few months into her job as a nursing assistant at Florala Health and Rehabilitation in Alabama when it became clear that the racism and abuse ran deeper here than the other facilities she had worked in. It's quoted as reports that a coworker has said, quote, these black girls need to service their people like the slaves they are. The head nurse on duty did not intervene during the exchange. Some of the other comments are, um, she says that she's one of 9 former and current black women who say the facility, which borders Florida and northeast of Mobile, is home to unrelenting racism and taunts to retaliation and physical violence. The employees, 1 registered nurse and 8 nursing assistants, were subjected to being called, quote, the N word, slave girls, and little black girls, along with exposure to lynching jokes. The racist remarks continue within earshot of them, quote, I'm allergic to black people. Colored people can't come in my room. The black girls scare me. Blacks are meant to serve. These comments, among others, created a racially hostile work environment, according to the lawsuit. Some of the employees also say they've witnessed unequal conditions and abusive treatment aimed at black patients, which includes them being left unbathed, without clothing, and sometimes without medication or care they need. They're asking the court to require the facility to institute policies promoting equal opportunities and treatment of all employees free of racial discrimination, along with compensation for damages. So this facility in Florida is owned, Florala is owned by NHS Management, which has several different facilities across Alabama, Florida, Missouri, and Arkansas. So according to Joe Perkins, who is the spokesperson for the company, says neither the values nor the policies of our company would allow or tolerate the conduct that is alleged in the lawsuit. We take these accusations seriously. It says one woman requested to be moved to a part-time position due to pervasiveness of racism. According to the lawsuit, her request was approved. Then a supervisor stopped scheduling her, effectively ending her shifts. 2 others resigned because of the ongoing discrimination. So we'll see what happens with this. But I just thought I'd bring that up because it's very real. Very real. And I remember myself working in a facility in Indiana where they had, this is what I was told coming into this facility working for them. Well, we had some Hispanic aides working here, some Mexican aides working here, but they ran them off because all the residents said they couldn't speak English and they didn't like those Mexican girls. But we're sure you'll get along fine. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go on. Let's get on with it. Let's go on up north here. I found this was quite interesting. So this is from New Jersey Spotlight News. And I want nurses, let me know. Give me your thoughts on this one. I'm curious. I'm really very curious what you think. So it says medical students are asked to fill gap as strike by nurses looms. This is from Healthcare Business. I found this quite interesting. So it says for another week, nurses and the Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital Administration have yet to reach a contract deal. A strike by nurses could begin as early as Friday. So that's this Friday. According to Judy Danella, a registered nurse and president of the United Steelworkers Local 4200, which is heading the negotiations of more than 1,700 nurses, says younger nurses don't want to stay when they're overworked, when the workload is just too much, the acuity was too high. I think if we fix the safe staffing part, we can definitely improve nurses coming into the profession. With a strike looming, Rutgers deans sent a request to medical students to volunteer. Now, wait a minute, not to be paid, right? I don't know, but they said volunteer. I have questions about that. Okay, but anyway, it says they sent a request to medical students to volunteer for 4-hour morning shifts, serving as support staff during a transition to replacement nurses, to which the medical students wrote an open letter voicing their concerns for their workload, the nurses on the front lines, and the pressure to cross a picket line with fellow hospital staff. So they're like, we don't want to be scabs. Okay. So Dr. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, Tinzel Eckenberg, a resident at Rutgers, says it only hurts each other and our ability to work together as a healthcare team when you have one set of workers or students or trainees undermining the concerns and arguments of another. If no agreements reached this week, nurses are expected to walk out and start picketing on Friday morning. I guess my question is, are these medical students prepared to function in nursing? And would they be working as a nurse without a license, and would that potentially then open them up to sanction for working without a license? What is it that they are expecting these nursing medical students to do? There's a lot of questions with that, and the fact that they're asking them across picket lines. Yeah, are they even prepared to function in a nursing capacity, or are they just saying, can you help people get a bath? Well, I don't know if they're prepared to do that either. I don't think they're taught how to bathe in, how to turn in all of this in medical school. So what exactly do you think they would be doing? And again, could the argument be made that they're practicing nursing without a license? Questions? Comments? Let me know what you think. All right. So here's another article. This is coming out of Ohio. And the reason why I'm bringing this article up is because, one, that's my home state and involves my hometown, Toledo. So I wanted to share it with my folks. All right. So it says new details emerge in Westlake nursing home theft linked to others in northern Ohio. So it says police say that 37-year-old Toledo woman has stolen credit cards from facilities in Northwest Ohio and Westlake. Nearly a month after a Westlake nursing home employee fell victim to a suspected serial credit card thief, police are still looking for the 37-year-old suspect. According to court documents filed by Westlake Police in Rocky River Municipal Court, Clarissa Spearman of Toledo is wanted on felony charges of misusing credit cards and theft. Police said on July 3rd around 2:40 p.m., an employee of a nursing home on Detroit Road called to report that someone had stolen her wallet out of her purse, which had been left in an office at the medical facility. During the investigation, an officer discovered that the credit cards taken with the wallet had already been used several times at a Walmart in Avon. According to the police report, a total of 5 credit cards were stolen, and the suspect attempted to charge more than $8,500. Some purchases went through, others were declined. Police distributed photos of the suspect using stolen cards at various stores to neighboring police departments. According to the police, the same female has stolen wallets from nursing homes and assisted livings in Toledo and Perkins Township. So they're asking anyone with information to please call the police. This was first reported on WOIO. You can go ahead and get that information. If you're in Toledo and you want this information, let me know. I'll send it to you if you want that. All right, but I'm just bringing that up Lock your stuff up. Lock your stuff up at work. All right. Here's another story from triblive.com. It says state suspends license of nurse accused of killing care home patients. This is really sad and egregious. So we reported on this previously, but I wanted you to know the outcome of what happened. So the nursing license of a Harrison woman charged with purposely administering fatal doses of insulin to two patients has been suspended indefinitely. So this is coming out of the state of Pennsylvania. Defendant Heather Presty, a registered nurse since 2018, agreed to the suspension sought by Pennsylvania's Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs. Prosecuting attorneys for the Bureau signed off last month on the consent agreement, which was approved July 20th by the State Board of Nursing and filed Wednesday, 2 months after Presty was arrested with the Pennsylvania Department of State. Signing on Presty's behalf was her father, Michael Presty, who holds her power of attorney. Presty is charged with 2 counts of homicide and other offenses, including attempted homicide for using insulin to injure a third patient who survived. In light of the criminal charges, the state said Presty's continued practice of nursing, quote, makes her an immediate and clear danger to the public health and safety. In agreeing to the suspension, Presty, 40, did not admit guilt. Her attorney, Phil DeLucente, declined to comment on the suspension as well as on the unexplained postponement Tuesday of his client's formal arraignment. When she was charged May 25th, Presty had been working at Sunnyview Rehabilitation and Nursing Center in Butler, according to investigators. But the alleged crimes occurred the year prior while she was Assistant Director of Nursing and Quality Life Services, Corocco and Donegal Township. In between those jobs, investigators said Presty worked for 2 months stint at Premier Armstrong Rehabilitation and Nursing in Kittanning. So she's accused of killing a 55-year-old man identified as JB, who died December 4th, 2022, and his suite mate, an 83-year-old man identified as JC, who died December 25th. They were sent to Butler Memorial Hospital with hypoglycemia or low blood sugar within 30 minutes of each other. The alleged victim who survived was identified as EA, a 73-year-old man who became ill on August the 31st. Investigators said Presty admitted to giving insulin to all 3 men. Investigators believe the dosage caused their blood sugar levels to plummet, dangerously provoking medical emergencies. I want to stop here and say this is probably where having a good legal nurse consultant will certainly help your case, even as a criminal attorney. Just saying. And also for civil litigation against the facilities, because I imagine that the facilities will also have some liability here. What was interesting about this is that when asked about why she did this and talking about the 2 men who died, she told investigators, quote, she felt bad for their quality of life and she hoped that they would just slip into a coma and pass away. And that brings up so many different things. One, what gives you the right to decide whose quality of life is what it is and choose to end their life? 2, this speaks to the quality of care maybe in the industry overall. And, why weren't there checks and balances? I don't know. It's just a lot of questions in this case. I haven't read the case file. I can't speak on that. But I'm going to say this again brings up some of those issues that we found. And I think that part of it is coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people were feeling as if things were just going downhill and people were just asking for relief. And so I think that brings out some of these actors who think that they're helping, but they're not. It kind of reminds me of the nurse that sawed off the guy's foot, saying she did it for relief because it was just hanging on, but she had no legal right to do so, and nor was she had the scope of practice to do so without a physician's order. So that was another case. Yeah. But I wanted to let you know what that happened. Okay. All right. So here's to our next story. And I think this is great. This is coming from the Atlanta. And this has been published in several news outlets. But I happen to pick it up here. It says the WHO chief nurse encourages governments to, quote, listen to nurses. Right? You're going to get some commentary with these news stories. So, yeah, listen to nurses. What a novel concept. All right, so it says to to Tui Palutu is the chief nursing officer of the World Health Organization, making her the top nurse in the world, accordingly. She says, we must care for them, the nurses and midwives. We must make sure they have decent pay and working conditions. We must enable them to work to the full extent of the scopes of their practice. And we must have nurses in senior health positions. Yes. These are key parts of the solutions for the issues that nurses are facing. In her interview with the online magazine, Tuipulotu said a key problem for nurses around the world is the, quote, historical undervaluing of the profession through poor pay and other factors. She says, for me, this is the right time that we must come together to change that. If the profession feels it is undervalued and disrespected historically after the pandemic, how will that impact the nurses themselves, their confidence, and the way they value their work? We really have to see the whole picture, the ripple impact of the decisions we make. Tuipulotu, who in her 7th month as chief nursing officer, wants the world governments to listen to nurses and midwives' voices and perspectives. After all, she said, these caregivers are the ones on the front line every day. So I'm going to say I applaud those efforts. Hopefully they'll be listening to nurses. That's great. So this is from Pulse Magazine. So I just thought I'd share that with you because, again, that's been reported elsewhere, but I wanted to share that with you. That's encouraging. The chief nurse of the world is saying, listen to nurses. All right. Little happy news for the great state of New York. This is coming from AM New York. New NYC public nurses win historic pay bump in new union contract. The New York State Nurses Association's year of fiery activism has finally paid off for the city public nursing workforce. The nurses union announced Monday night that it reached a contract with New York City Health and Hospitals that includes a significant pay increase effective immediately and several measures aimed to addressing the ongoing problem of understaffing. The union says that the pay raises, in concert with staffing programs like a flowing pool of nurses and new patient to nurse ratios, will help city hospitals retain nursing staff. So I think that's great. The agreement comes on the heel of several escalating rallies and protests that the public nurses organized in the past few months, and we've certainly covered those on this channel. While public sector nurses are barred by state law from going on strike, the union raised many of the issues at a stake in the H&H contract while conducting successful strikes at 2 private hospitals, Mount Sinai and Montefiore, in January. So the contract, which is for 5.5 years, will extend 2 years of pay parity, which raises to all the city's over 8,000 nurses, in line with the nurses earned in the private sector. They will get an additional $16,000 in their first year and another $5,551 in their second year, bringing the starting nurse's salary up to $106,000 per year. Wait, that's a starting nurse's salary? $106,000 per year? I think that's awesome. Now, I understand cost of living is much, much higher in New York. I get that. I know that, been there, understood that. I haven't worked in New York, but I've talked to New Yorkers when I was there. I understand cost of living is very high. But from us in the perspective of Indiana, when nurses are historically making maybe $75,000, $80,000 a year, depending on where you work, and that's seasoned nurses, I'm like, wow. So that's what I'm saying. So this is a great thing. I like the fact that they are improving the staff to patient ratio. So we'll establish a 1 to 2 nurse patient ratio in post anesthesia care units, a 1 to 1 ratio for patients requiring critical care, and a 1 to 4 ratio for patients waiting to be transferred out. They'll also have a system of float nurses available, and they'll be able to do those things. So hopefully this all works out for them. And I say kudos to New York for getting it done. We'll see what happens. All right. Got 2 more stories, and then we're going to be done for today. This is a good news story. It says the Howley Foundation makes a $12 million gift to double nurse scholars at Cleveland Clinic. So I want to say congratulations. This is a press release from the Cleveland Clinic. And it says the Cleveland Clinic has received a gift of more than $12 million from the Howley Foundation to double the number of nurse scholars beginning in the fall of 2023. In the recognition of this generous gift and the foundation's cumulative support, all programs within the Aspire initiative at Cleveland Clinic will be renamed to honor the Howley name, including the Howley Aspire Nurse Scholars Program. The nursing program is for local high school and college students and seeks to increase diversity in healthcare, address opportunity gaps, and reduce health disparities in the community. Tom Mihaljevic, who's the CEO and president of the Cleveland Clinic, says it's essential that we diversify the pipeline of our future healthcare workforce, including nurses. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't want to be in my feels about this, but it's the way it's worded. It's essential that we diversify the pipeline of our future healthcare workers, including nurses. Nurses are outside of your healthcare workers to better represent our patients and the communities we serve. I guess I just find that weirdly odd phrasing for an article that's about nursing. Okay. It goes on to say, we are grateful for the Howley's continued support and passion for increasing diversity and equity in our next generation of caregivers. The gift will allow the Nurse Scholars Program to double enrollment to approximately 50 students from Cleveland area high schools each year. Students enter the program as high school juniors and are taught an innovative curriculum that provides an exploration of the nursing profession, as well as socialization and integration into healthcare. High school graduates then have the opportunity to earn a scholarship to pursue a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from the Breen School of Nursing and Health Professions at Ursuline College. Well, I think that's great. It also says that students working as patient care nursing assistants at Cleveland Clinic during the summer after high school graduation and throughout their college career. They then have the opportunity to return as registered nurses at the Cleveland Clinic facility after college graduation and licensure. So I think that's a great program and a great pipeline, and congratulations for them getting this program. And our next story is I have 2 of nurses making a difference. The first one is this hospice nurse, and I just think it was wonderful, and I just want to shout out to her. So this is from Connecticut, and it says, just doing my job, Connecticut hospice nurse helps dying woman reunite with her horse at Bethany Farm. So on a recent Sunday morning, Michelle Walker's phone rang. It was her father in Ottawa, Canada. He says, I'm reading about you in the local newspaper. Walker, the RN case manager at Brantford's Connecticut Hospice, recalled him telling her. The story was splashed across the headlines of the New York Post and the Miami Herald, with a lengthy piece in the Washington Post and coverage as far-flung as the Daily Mail, a news outlet in Hungary, and one in Australia. So I think this is great. She was assigned to Karina Courtmanche, 79, in a skilled nursing facility at the Mary Wade home in New Haven. At a care plan meeting, Walker first heard about Comanche's wish. I seen pictures of her horse in her room and heard about her talk about it, but I had no idea it was still alive. This is a horse she's had for 30 years. Someone mentioned that she wanted to see her horse, but they weren't sure she could make it happen. So she was able to get a chance to bring the horse, which was kind of old for her to travel. She said we knew we had to bring it to her. So they got the horse in a trailer and brought the horse to her. Oh no, they got her to the horse. So it says Walker's boss, Karen Enders, a director of nursing for home care at Connecticut Hospice, reached out to AMR Medical Transportation Company. They thought it was a touching case and did it pro bono. So they talked to Bittersweet Farm to make sure they could accommodate. Didn't know if the grounds were light, if the structure could come there. And they said, yes, right away. Let's go see your horse. So she learned more about Court Manchi. Court Manchi was a nurse practitioner. And so we have two nurses in the story making a difference here. And she wrote some beautiful articles, one in the Yale School of Nursing newsletter in 93. And she spent several years with her mother in a camp for displaced people before coming to the United States. So she was a nurse practitioner. She had a horse, and they were able to get her to see her horse. I thought that was wonderful. And so I think that's great. I just think that's wonderful. So kudos to the nurse that made it happen. This is what I say, nurses, we are so innovative and forward thinking. And I want to thank the nurse practitioner and for her years of service. So I think that's wonderful. And our last nurse making a difference. This is coming from Daily Nurse, and I thought this was another great story, another feel-good story. Dr. Dorothy Miller watches her daughter graduate from nursing program she created. This is coming out of North Carolina, and I thought this was awesome. And she made Nurse of the Week there from St. Andrews University Department, Chair of Health Services. So it says, as a once impoverished teen mom in rural North Carolina, Dr. Dorothy Miller watched with great pride as her eldest daughter graduated 13 years to the day she received her nursing degree from a nursing program she created at St. Andrews University in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Dr. Miller, the St. Andrews University Department Chair, credits her mom, Ruby Bandy, for prioritizing education. At 15 years old, Dr. Miller, then a student, gave birth to her first daughter on Friday. And her mom insisted that the North Carolina high school freshman was back at school on Monday. Dr. Miller says she wanted to become a nurse growing up, but her high school counselor told her she would never become a nurse because of her poor grades in math and science. High school counselors, stop knocking down people's dreams. You never know what the person can do. Instead of saying you could never do it, say, this is what you need to do so you can do this. She says, as my high school counselor mentioned, the odds were definitely against me. Fortunately, I was born with tenacity and the unmitigated audacity to refuse to give up. Thank you. So she knew her education was a ticket out of poverty for her and her baby. So the Daily Nurse recognizes her as their Nurse of the Week, honoring her tenacity and perseverance to defy the odds and dedication to become a nurse educator. She received her associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, and another master's. And she also served in the U.S. Army from 1995 to 2001. So, Dr. Miller, thank you for your service. She's also now running for a seat on the North Carolina Board of Nursing. She launched the first nursing school at St. Andrews in 2021. So not only was her daughter Bandy in the first graduating class, but her name was also the first one called during the May ceremony. It's rewarding for Dr. Miller to see her child follow in her footsteps after being the driving force behind her successful career. So congratulations to Dr. Miller. I think that's wonderful. And yes, I'm going to say Dr. Miller. Nurse, PhD. You earned that doctorate. Congratulations. And I want to say congratulations to your daughter for joining the ranks. And so that is all of our news for today. I want to thank you for tuning in for our news show. We're running a little bit late into the program, so I did want to go on and talk about some of the things that are coming up. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I'm going to be posting it. In fact, the post has already gone out. We are going to have our Fall Back in Love with Nursing event again. This time it's going to be a webinar, a 1-hour webinar, live webinar. It's free. You just register on the nursesharkacademy.biz. Go there. You should see the promotion starting to come out for that. And that will be at the end of this month because that's going to get us ready for our next challenge coming up in September. And in September, we're going to have So You Want to Start Your Nurse-Owned Business free challenge in September, coming up that first week in September. So I wanted to have this webinar leading up to that event, so you can sign up and get registered for that if you're interested in that. And then also, we are officially open and taking applications for our CNA training school. So those of you that are wanting to be CNAs, go to the Baxter Professional Services Health Education.com. Go to that website, sign up. We have information sessions available as well to get you started in our CNA training school. So be there for that. Also, very new, if you want to get registered for any TB validation classes, if you want to get registered for CPR classes, go to our website, Baxter Professional Services healtheducation.com, and you can sign up for those classes. They are also available. So I wanted to share that with you. And then lastly, don't forget to turn into the Nurse Shark Academy show. We publish twice a month, and we have great nurses that are on. And I just had the chance to publish the episode with a nurse who is a policymaker on the national and international level. So you don't want to miss that episode. So don't forget, we come in live on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock for our nursing news show. If you have a nurse that's making a difference and you want to spotlight them, let us know. If you have a community event that's happening and you want us to bring a shout out to your community event, go ahead and leave us a comment, and I'll be sure to let you know. All right, that's it for us, and bye-bye for now.